I guess I'm live. Hey, everybody. This is April Johnson here, and I am very excited to come out and talk to you all about a topic that I find very important in regards to women's health, and this is thyroid. So today I am going to be discussing a common complaint that I actually hear from a lot of women, and that is, I have issues with weight gain, I have issues with brain fog, I have low energy, fatigue. I, go to my doctor and I request lab work to be done. And I'm told after my thyroid's been tested that it's normal, but I'm still experiencing these symptoms. Why is that? And so I'm going to break that down tonight in this webinar. So let's get started. Thank you, Emily. So again, why am I still dealing with brain fog, fatigue, low energy, weight gain with a normal thyroid lab result? So before we begin, I'm just going to introduce myself in case you don't know who I am. My name is April Johnson, and I am a functional medicine coach here with Firefly Hollow, and I'm very passionate to helping women navigate through their thyroid and gut health issues. And I do this by identifying what is the root cause inside of the body, the mind, and the spirit. You've got to identify what the root cause is in order to actually begin the path to healing. Again, at the end of the day, ladies, as a coach, all I really want for you is for you to have your energy back, to find joy, and just love life again. If you've spoken to anybody who's had thyroid issues, I've had them in the past myself. I didn't even know I did, but I know I did. It can be debilitating. The symptoms are hard, and when you don't have that energy to get through your day, or you're dealing with GI issues, or you're not functioning properly, it can really be hard to get through your day. So I really want to help you find your energy and joy and love life again. So before I begin, I want to point this out, just my little disclaimer here at the bottom, that the information that I'm sharing in this webinar is for educational purposes. If at any time you need to make changes to your food and lifestyle, please consult your physician. Always do that first. So I wanted to put that out there before I begin. So this is what we're going to be learning today in the webinar. What is the thyroid and why thyroid health is important? The metabolic functions that thyroid supports in the body. I will tell you the thyroid is very, very important, and the hormone that comes from it is absolutely needed in so many functions in your body. And again, we're going to go over what that is. We're going to go over what are the most common signs, symptoms, and red flags. So if you're dealing with some of these things that I talk about later, then maybe you don't know you have a thyroid issue, but when I talk about what the symptoms are, maybe you're like, oh, maybe I do. You're going to learn the process of thyroid hormone synthesis. And I'm really going to try to break it down and make it easy for you to understand. It's a little bit more involved than what I'm sharing tonight, but I really just want you to get an overall view of why women deal with symptoms, even after being told that they tested normal. Because once you learn the thyroid hormone process, you're going to be able to understand that. And then we're going to go over each full panel lab marker. And then we're going to talk about why the conventional thyroid testing is not enough. So I'm going to be breaking down the conventional test versus the functional test. And again, you're going to really see how women are still struggling with the symptoms after having a conventional test. We're going to talk about the importance of getting accurate lab work and identifying the root cause. And then at the end, I'm going to go over how I help my clients with their thyroid health and their issues with a functional medicine and an empowered approach. So let's first just go over what functional medicine is, because a lot of people still don't know. I actually fell in love with functional medicine because it really does take healthcare one step further. So for instance, conventional healthcare is really, you have to have symptoms, and you present those symptoms to your doctor, you get tested, you get diagnosed, and then you get most likely put on a medication, which if you need to be put on medication is important if you truly need it. But what I love about functional medicine is that it takes healthcare one step further and asks the question, why? Why is this person experiencing symptoms? Why is the thyroid not functioning optimally? And this is really the only way to begin the path towards healing, is to find that source and really honestly not slapping band-aids on symptoms. We got to get to the root cause. Honestly, healthcare is not a one-size-fits-all approach. In functional medicine, it is unique to the person, it is individualized, and that's really how healthcare should be. We are all different. And I'll tell you that from my own previous experiences working with clients, that a woman's root cause for her health or for her thyroid health issues is not going to be the same for every person. There's always a different root cause for each person. And that's how I help my clients, by identifying the why, addressing the root, and then we can start making those changes so they can begin their path towards healing. So when I work with my clients, we're going to really work on optimizing their health. And optimizing health does not have to be complicated. And again, this is where functional medicine really shines. It really just comes down to what to maximize for your specific body, minimize what is harmful, and prioritize an environment for healing. That's really what it comes down to. If you are constantly eating, say, processed foods, then maybe you are starting to have GI issues, inflammation. It can also affect your thyroid. So we're going to minimize what is harmful. We're going to take out all that processed foods. We're going to put in really great whole foods and healthy fats, and maybe prioritize an environment for healing, maybe more self-care. Maybe looking at adding some joy kind of events in your life. But those are the three things that I look at when I work with my clients. And your body naturally seeks out wellness. It does it every day. It truly wants to be in homeostasis, and it has the power to heal itself. The body is truly amazing, and it does this all the time. The problem is that our bodies literally are just trying to survive in the environment that we put it in by our everyday choices. Literally, it's in like survival mode. And, when your body is experiencing, when you're experiencing symptoms, that is your body telling you that there's something going on. So it's really important to make sure that we're paying attention to what our body is telling us. Because again, as I said, those symptoms are just saying, our body's saying, hey, something's going on with me here, pay attention. So when you make the changes in the above areas that I mentioned, you're going to see your body shift into wellness. It's actually, like I said, it actually craves it. It's really quite amazing. So let's get into tonight's topic, since I went over a little bit about what it is that I do and why I love what I do. The thyroid. So this is a butterfly-shaped organ that is located right here in the center of your throat. And this hormone it influences the speed of everything metabolic in your body. And we're going to go over what those are in just a second. I just really want to highlight the fact that this little tiny organ has some pretty big responsibilities in your body. And it's very important that we love it and we take care of it. Because again, you're going to see how mighty and powerful it is in just a second. But first, I want to talk about why I call thyroid-related illnesses the silent epidemic. I don't know if you know any of these facts, but these are kind of alarming. So 200+ million people worldwide suffer from thyroid-related illness. The vast majority of those people are women, 5 to 8 times more likely to have a thyroid problem. Over half of the cases are undiagnosed. Many more of them are undertreated. Up to 60% of those with thyroid disease are unaware of their condition. 1 woman in 7 will develop a thyroid disorder. And conventional medical treatment, unfortunately, may not bring full symptom relief for many patients due to the testing and the medication, which we're actually going to be covering later in the webinar. I just really want to point out that this is the reason why I'm doing this webinar, because a lot of women are not getting diagnosed and not getting treated, and they are dealing with, it's usually low thyroid symptoms for a long number of years until they're actually finally diagnosed. I can't even tell you how many conversations I've had with women that have told me this. And it's just really upsetting for me, because it doesn't have to be this way. So that's why I'm providing this education for you all, because I want you to know this information so that you can go to your doctor and have a conversation. So let's talk about what the thyroid supports in the body. So every cell in your body has a receptor to receive thyroid hormone, and it influences everything metabolic in your body. And here's what they are: your body temperature, skin, weight, PMS, sex drive, mood, cholesterol, fertility, heart function, GI function, and immune function. So if you're not getting enough thyroid hormone out into the bloodstream, and most importantly, into the cells, then you're going to be experiencing sluggishness, sluggish thyroid, sluggish everything. So these areas here, these metabolic areas, functions, are not going to be running optimally. And this is why women will be dealing with like weight issues and high cholesterol and dry skin and feeling cold all the time. It's because they're not getting enough of this hormone into the cells. So this really does show you how powerful this hormone is and why it's so important to get it into the cell so it can do the work that it's supposed to do. So let's cover some of the common symptoms of thyroid imbalance. So there are two diagnostics here. There's hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. Hypothyroidism is more common than hyper. Hypothyroidism means an underactive thyroid. That's where the sluggishness comes in. So everything is running too slow. You're often feeling cold. You're gaining weight, or you may be even having difficulty losing weight. You have increased LDL cholesterol, fatigue, malaise, thinning eyebrows, low energy, ongoing constipation, dry skin, rough PMS or menopause symptoms, infertility, and hair loss. One second, I take some water. Hyperthyroidism is an overactive thyroid. And that means things are just running too intensely, often feel warm or hot, increased weight loss, heart palpitations, racing heart, anxiety, nervous frequently, restlessness, irritability, fatigue, low or no menstrual period, excessive sweating, trouble concentrating, and frequent and perhaps loose bowels. So those are the common symptoms to look for, the red flags I was talking about earlier. So again, if you are experiencing any of these, it could very well be a thyroid-related issue. So this here is a diagram that I created to show how thyroid hormone, where it begins, and how it goes through the body. And this is a really important piece that I'm hoping that I can explain without confusing anybody, because it can be a little confusing. But I want you to understand why it's so important that we don't look at just the beginning right here. We don't just look at the beginning of thyroid hormone synthesis. So actually, thyroid hormone is secreted from the hypothalamus. It's triggered by that, and it releases TRH. And this actually goes to the pituitary, and it stimulates to secrete TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. A lot of women probably have heard TSH before. This is actually one of, well, it pretty much is mostly conventional lab draw is TSH. Sometimes they do T4, which I'll talk about here in a second, but it's mostly TSH. The problem with TSH is that it's actually not really a great marker for thyroid hormone sufficiency. And this is because TSH is technically a brain hormone, not thyroid hormone. So the pituitary and the thyroid actually talk to each other. It's communication. So when TSH is secreted, that is actually telling the thyroid how much T4 to make. Your thyroid actually makes primarily inactive T4. So this is not even the active form of thyroid hormone that goes out into the bloodstream that needs to go into the cells. Very important to remember that. So even if your doctor looks at the TSH and the T4, it's still not great markers of the overall picture of thyroid function. It's really going to come after to T4, which is converting it into the active form of T3. And that is done actually through primarily your liver and to a lesser extent your kidneys. But the conversion happens here in the liver. It goes from T4 to T3. After that, there is what is called the inactive form of T3, which is reverse T3. And your body naturally makes reverse T3, and it actually recycles iodine, so it's needed in your body. But reverse T3 can actually get elevated. And that's when reverse T3 and free T3 can start to compete with each other. What would cause an elevated reverse T3? Well, stress, inflammation, toxicity, those are some of the top key ones that would, elevate reverse T3. So what that's actually going to do is it's going to take away your thyroid hormone that is needed for your cells, and you're not going to have as much of it to go into the cells. So when your doctor is only looking at this pieces here and missing everything here, and this is honestly the majority of why women are having thyroid issues, it's because they're not converting it. They're not converting it enough to get that hormone out into the bloodstream and into the cells where the cellular metabolism happens that I mentioned to you earlier, all those metabolic functions that need to be happening because you need that T3 to go into those receptors. So that's why this is really important to understand how thyroid hormone synthesis works. And then again, like I said, it's really right here is a big piece, and it's getting missed because it's not getting tested. So if a woman if she's having poor conversion issues and this isn't getting looked at, she's just not going to know that. And if TSH and her T4 is within normal range, then she's going to be told that her thyroid function is normal when it actually is not. And again, if anybody has any questions on this very specific diagram, please feel free. I will follow up with any kind of questions. But I want to make sure that you understand how this works and why it, again, is so important to look at the full picture and not just the beginning piece. So let's talk about the conventional and functional labs. So here you can see most commonly it is going to be TSH, which again is a brain hormone. It is not actually the thyroid hormone. And occasionally I have seen free T4, which is also great, but it's, looking at free T3 would be a lot better as well. If they would include those two in there, it would be a lot better. But you got to look at more than just TSH. But that is what your doctor typically will be running. Sometimes you can get additional lab work done, but you really would have to be out of range. Functional lab work, we're going to look at 6 different lab markers. So we're looking at TSH, we're looking at free T4, we're looking at free T3, which is, again, the hormone that goes into the cells. It's really important to know how much is going out there. Reverse T3 is a really great marker too, because again, if it's elevated, that's a really great indication that there's probably something going on in the gut. Maybe there's something going on in your liver, because again, that's where the conversion happens. And then we're going to look at the TPO and TG antibodies. Those are markers that very well can indicate an autoimmune dynamic diagnosed as Hashimoto's. Some of the additional testing that functional practitioners such as myself would look at would be ferritin. Ferritin is actually needed in order to convert T4 to T3 and to get T3 into the cells. Honestly, I have seen ferritin not even be looked at, and so that really should be looked at. Vitamin A, D, and zinc are needed for thyroid. Cortisol, if you're having cortisol issues, the adrenal and the thyroid are like this. Everything's interconnected, but cortisol is great to look at. If maybe you're having some type of microbial overgrowth, stool testing may be needed. Food sensitivity testing, or elimination diet is great as well, and a viral antibody panel. A lot of women who are dealing with hypothyroidism and even autoimmune Hashimoto's can have a viral reactivation. And the most common one is EBV, Epstein-Barr virus. So sometimes those panels do need to be run as well. But as you can clearly see, that there's a huge difference between what is conventional lab work versus functional lab work. Again, the functional lab work is really, that's why it's called full panel, because it's looking at the overall picture, the whole picture from the beginning to the end. And unfortunately, the conventional is only looking at the very beginning piece and not even actually the active thyroid hormone. So let's just break down a little bit of each of these full panel lab markers. We did talk a little bit about TSH, so you know that's produced from the pituitary, and that again, that's a communication between your brain and your thyroid. Free T4 is actually what's not bounded to proteins in your blood, so it's the free hormone going out into the blood. Your thyroid does primarily make an active T4, and this T4 actually requires really great protein intake. I mean, thyroid function in general really does require great protein intake, making sure you have really great digestion and iodine. Free T3 is the active thyroid hormone that is converted from your T4, and again, that is happening primarily in the liver and to a lesser extent the kidneys. And that is a hormone that again needs to get into the cells for cellular metabolism to do all of those metabolic functions that I had mentioned earlier. Reverse T3, again, this is in the body. It's always there. It recycles, and like I said, it competes with free T3. The thing to remember about reverse T3 and free T3 is really it's all about balance. And, the only time that reverse T3 really becomes an issue is when it gets elevated because there is a conversion issue, probably due to chronic stress, inflammation, or toxicity. And that would be an area that if you would work with me, we would get to that root cause and start making those changes. So you're not dealing with inflammation. Maybe you need help supporting your detoxification pathways. And then the last one is looking at those antibodies. I cannot say this enough, but this is, autoimmune actually is, I think, becoming another epidemic. And Hashimoto's and even Graves' disease is not being discovered because this particular testing is not getting done. So high levels of antibodies are going to indicate a possible ongoing autoimmune attack. Estimates of up to 95% of chronic hypothyroidism is autoimmune in origin. 95%, that's crazy. And again, this is being missed because the testing is not getting done. There is women who have been hypothyroidism for a very long number of years, have never been tested for their antibodies. Then finally one day they do get tested and their antibodies are through the roof. That's crazy. We can overcome autoimmune thyroiditis when we know about it sooner than later. There's a lot of things that you can do to reverse that, but finding out sooner than later is the best way. And so making sure we get that testing done is super important. So earlier I was talking about, if you were going to your doctor and you got just a TSH testing done, and if you were out of range, they would test for more. Well, I wanted to just kind of showcase ranges because there is a difference between what is normal and what is optimal. So you can see here that this is the old normal range, which a woman who had a 5.0 for her TSH had to be really suffering. That is crazy. I can't even believe that was a range at one time. But now, it's about 3.5, which honestly, women are still having some major issues at a TSH of 3.5. Really, the sweet spot is the optimal range, and this is about 0.75 to 2. This is where women actually feel pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you can go get your TSH be tested and say it's at, a 3, and well, you're within normal range, but you're still not feeling good. That's not good. We need to be diving deeper into that and go and look at the full picture of what's going on after the TSH. So I just really wanted to point out the differences in ranges. And again, optimal is really where you want to be at to feel good. So conventional lab work has outdated normal ranges that, like I said before, you're not going to feel your best, most likely. And that's why women still feel like poop after, getting tested and it's a normal range. Some of the ranges have been updated, but some practitioners still use old ranges. And also, I think it really does depend, too, on where they're getting their lab draws from. And I'll be honest, a lot of our doctors just are not trained. They're not trained to request the full panel. They're not trained to read the lab results in a more functional, optimal way versus the normal range. They don't know what they don't know. So I want to point that out. And looking at TSH only and even T4 doesn't give a very accurate overview of thyroid function from beginning to end. And I really hope that I showcased that very well, because you really need to look at more than just those 2 lab markers. It just doesn't give a very good indication of what's really going on. And like I said before, if a woman's having a very poor conversion, T4 to T3, you're totally missing that whole piece. And that really does have to do with gut. Medication alone is not enough to improve thyroid function. Again, especially if there's a poor conversion issue. If you're having that and you're taking TSH only medication, that TSH medication is not going to help you if you're having poor conversion. And most importantly, it is so important to identify the root cause of why the thyroid is not operating optimally in order to truly begin a way to heal. So this is pretty much an overview of how I help my clients with a functional medicine and empowered approach. Because optimizing thyroid function is just more than the thyroid. It is the whole body. And this really requires a whole body approach. So when I work with a female client who comes to me with she thinks she has thyroid issues or she's been diagnosed with them, we're going to be looking at diet. That is first. Eliminating gluten, dairy, and grains. And that is because those are highly inflammatory. I can speak from my own experience because I did a reset program, started in August of last year, and I clocked in at 200 pounds, which blew my mind. It's the heaviest I've been in my entire life. And I started this reset program, and I eliminated those 3 things plus some other things. And I lost weight pretty quickly that first week, and I lost 5 inches around my waist. And that 5 inches was inflammation. And that was because I was eating gluten, dairy, and grains a lot. And when I removed them, my gut was healing from the fact that I wasn't eating that stuff anymore. So yeah, unfortunately, those things are highly inflammatory, and a lot of people cannot eat them. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at more of a whole food diet, really great quality protein, some healthy fats. There are key nutrients and vitamins and minerals that are absolutely needed for thyroid health, and also to help convert your hormone from T4 to T3. So we're talking vitamin D, selenium, zinc, iron, vitamin A, and so much more. So if you're deficient in any of those areas, lab work is really great to look at that. And then also, if you're not actually absorbing the food that you're eating, then that's a gut issue, and we're also going to look at that. Sleep. Sleep is really important. I think sleep has been kind of pushed to the side a little bit. People are not getting great sleep. We need really good restorative sleep, and I help my clients with that, and I go through what's called a sleep hygiene. But that's really just cleaning up, how we prepare ourselves for the evening before we go to bed. Reducing stress. This is a huge one. Stress has such an impact on our health overall. And any way that we can find a way to reduce stress in our life, adding in more self-care, that's really important. Lowering inflammation, which I talked about a little bit earlier. Liver function, so important. Again, when if you're having a conversion issue, looking at the liver is a great place. Maybe you're having some congestion, constipation, you need support detoxifying. So those are some things that we can look at. Digestive health. Disease begins in the gut about 99.99999% of the time. So if we're experiencing any type of a health issue, the gut is a really great place to start. And that's what I'll do. Appropriate exercise. So, something that I have learned as I have been getting older is cardio is not really the best, especially if you're dealing with thyroid issues, especially when you get older and even approaching menopause, because your hormones are actually going to be falling back on your adrenal glands. So we don't want to fatigue our adrenals. Making sure that we are doing appropriate exercise, such as maybe going for walks, yoga, Pilates, some light weights and things like that. But yeah, making sure that we're finding the appropriate exercise for ourselves. And one of the biggest things is making sure that we're finding fulfillment in our life and being able to express ourselves and finding happiness. This is such a huge piece. And if you're not able to express yourself and have happiness, your throat chakra is right here. And that's one of, your thyroid's right here. And so is your throat chakra. So if you're not able to, voice and do personal expression and things like that and have happiness, it actually will affect your throat chakra, which will affect your thyroid. So these are all some of the areas. They're not all of them, actually. There's a lot more I could go over, but I'm not going to go over all of them. But these are the areas that I will go through with each one of my clients who come to me dealing with thyroid issues. And that is my functional medicine and empowered approach. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, maybe I do have a thyroid issue, or maybe you've already been diagnosed with one and, you're, not getting that full panel, you're still having all those symptoms like I mentioned earlier, then you can work with me. You can contact Firefly. The numbers that scrolling there on the bottom. I do free 15-minute health consultations. So during this time with me, I really want to hear from you. I want to hear what's going on with you. I want to hear, what you're dealing with, what things you've tried. Just really talk to me about what's going on with your health. And then I can tell you a little bit further about how I can help you. And if we're a good fit, then, you can work with me. And I just really want to point out that to begin the path of thyroid healing, you have to identify the root cause. You have to get to that source, so that you can make those changes, so that you can start that healing process. And a coach such as myself will be there to educate, inspire, and most importantly, empower you while you are on your own personalized health journey. So that is all I have for you all this evening. I really do hope that you are going to be walking away from this webinar with so much information, being educated, and understanding how you can, be tested and have a normal result, but still experiencing symptoms. And it really does just come down to a lot about the testing. And I want you to be able to go to your doctor and have that conversation with them and to get that full panel. So I don't know if anybody has any questions at all. I'm free to take them. I can't really see anything here.
Hi, April.
Hey, you.
Hi, everybody. We had one question from Michelle. I will pop it up here on the screen so that you can see it.
Okay.
She says, I'm having all types of problems. Should I ask my doctor for a full panel?
Yes. And, for the ones who are staying here, I am gifting my thyroid lab guide. So if those people are interested in getting that, that's going to be full of information. And it actually it pretty much has everything that I talked about here tonight, but also has a doctor template that you can print out, has each one of those lab markers that I talked about, including ferritin, and you can take it to your doctor and you can present that to them. But yeah, absolutely. If you are experiencing all of those problems, I would definitely go and get that full panel. Talk to your doctor about it.
That's all we had. Thank you,
Okay.
April.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're going to go. Bye,
All right.
guys.